Namaste. Welcome to our Kirtan and Bhagavad Das's Bhagavad Gita class as usual on Monday night. And we're very happy you've been able to join us, and we'll join into our Kirtan. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shmate Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Iti Namine Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Iti Namine Namo Siddha Swarupananda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Aditya Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavinda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktavinda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Chaitanya Nityananda, Gauri. Chaitanya Nityananda, Gauri. Chaitanya
Sadashishimad Jagakuru Siddhasarupananda Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajakasatar Sadashishimad. His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Guru Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur's World Mission Ki Jai. Navadvita Dhamma Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavan Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Gaura Premanandi. Hare Hare Bol. Ama Gina Timarandasya Gina Gina Salakaya Chaksurun Militanyena Tajmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Statpitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantekam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajeevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanan Pavenbhyo Vaishnavbhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namaham Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Siraswarupananda Paramahansa Niti Namine Namo Sira Swarupananda Paramahansa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prastayate. Offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, Jagaguru Siddhasarupananda Paramahansa, Srila Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at these lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada is the mercy manifestation of Lord Chaitanya, Gora Karuna Swarupaya, and very dear to Radha and Krishna, Radha Krishna Prastayate. Haribo, and I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are like wish-fulfilling trees, able to fulfill all the desires of the fallen souls, and are full of compassion upon them. Namaste, Haribo, Krishna Krishna. So we are slowly moving through this first section of Bhagavad Gita in chapter 2, texts 11 through I think 31, where Krishna gives the basic ABCs of spiritual life, where he defines and describes the nature of the soul, the nature of the embodied living entity, and describing that one should not lament for the death of this body. And in chapter 2, text 22, which we discussed last week, Krishna described the body as just being like a set of clothes. That when the set of clothes is worn out, we discard them and take on a new one, put on some new clothes. And Krishna described that similarly, when the body gets old and worn out, we get a new one. And so the idea being that one doesn't lament as one takes off an old set of clothes or discards them and puts on a new set of clothes. In fact, this is actually like something to celebrate, right? We usually get pretty excited when we get a new set of clothes. And, when there's a new baby, people get pretty excited about that too. It's like, oh, how awesome, a new baby. And, of course, maybe the baby's not celebrating so much. Baby's not really aware of what the hell is going on at all. Being the death of the body and being put into a womb, and we're not quite sure what interregnum or interim period there may be between leaving the body and taking on the new one. But in any case, through that experience of leaving the body and then going wherever we go and then being put into a womb, given another material body, according to the laws of material nature, as a result of all this, we just completely forget everything. Even though it actually stays within the subtle material body, but we just forget it all. And this is actually what death is, forgetfulness. Forget everything, forget it all. Right? Very, very rarely is someone able to remember their past life. Very, very rarely. So anyway, so when we get the new body, we get a whole new set of experiences. We can tend as we age, we can get a bit burnt out. What used to be exciting and interesting becomes a bit tired and old. We're no longer, excited so much. Oh, we eat something nice. Well, okay, that's good. Okay, but for like younger people, it's like, oh, it's exciting eating, experiencing all these different tastes, and so on. But so, as the body gets old, it gets a bit tired, and it all just gets a bit much. And taking on a new body is, that's kind of like pretty good. Which is essentially what Krishna was saying to Arjuna in chapter 2, text 22. So Bhishma, he's old, and if you kill his body, then he's going to be able to take on a new body, and he'll take on a heavenly body in Swagaloka, the heavenly planets. And so this is a good thing, nothing to lament in that. So after that, then Krishna moves on into text 22 and 23, and Arjuna now comes up with another kind of thought or objection to what Krishna is teaching, because this is not expressed, again, directly expressed within Bhagavad Gita, but Srila Baladeva Vijabhusana gives the thoughts of behind the different things that is taking place in the conversation. And so Srila Baladeva Vijayabhusana here says, what Arjuna is thinking. But just as the house dweller is destroyed when his house is burned, when the body is destroyed by the blow of weapons, the soul should also be destroyed. So Arjuna is like struggling to understand this idea. Well, okay, so so the soul's living in the body, but if the house is destroyed, then surely the person dwelling in the house is destroyed as well. And so why isn't it like this for the soul when the body is burned? Why isn't the soul also burned and destroyed? So if you think about this is like, a good question. Oh, okay, how come? How come? And so Krishna responding to this idea of Arjuna's says, Nainam chidanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayanchyapo, na soshati marutaha. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. So, nainam chindati shastrani. So, shastrani means weapons. And so, shastra, scripture, is also like a weapon. It's the same word, shastra, to describe the Vedic literatures, scriptures, and also shastra. Second meaning of the word shastra is weapon. And this is because the scriptures can cut away our misconceptions and misunderstandings. We've been discussing in the Friday evenings classes in Healing Chant 108 that the different kinds of misfortunes or anathas that we have. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur likens the condition of the conditioned living entity, the Jiva Atma, within this world, as being covered by the mists of ignorance and the clouds of anathas. So this is covering our vision. And so the Shastras cut through this mist of ignorance and the clouds of anathas, or unwanted misfortunes. And so I was meant to say this on Friday night, but this is quite an apt analogy of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's in his telling of the conversation between Srila Nama Haridas Thakur, Namacharya Haridas Thakur, and Lord Chaitanya. So the mist, like a mist, is like all-enveloping. Right? Like when there's, like I used to, for a while I lived in California, and in the mornings, it'd be very misty and foggy, like the fog would roll in, and the mist was there, and it was like so thick, that basically you couldn't see anything. In fact, like off the coast of Los Angeles and southern and northern California, in the mornings generally there's this thick fog, and so it doesn't necessarily go that far inland, but it sits over the coast and the ocean, and so when that fog is there, you basically can't see anything. Sometimes it's so thick you can barely see your hand, And so this is like the mist of ignorance. It's just, you can't see anything. Right? And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur described the 4 kinds of anathas, and the first kind of anatha was illusion. So being in the midst of ignorance is like being an illusion. And he described 4 types of illusion. The illusion of not understanding who I am, the illusion of not understanding the form of Krishna and who Krishna is, the illusion of not understanding the processes of bhakti yoga, sadhana bhakti, or the sajya, or the goal, prayojana, prema bhakti, pure love for Krishna. And the 4th kind of illusion was, or ignorance. Ignorance or illusion are in essence the same word or same idea. The illusion of not understanding topics not in relation to Krishna. So this is the mist of ignorance. And then the clouds of anatha. So once the mist clears or the fog clears, then it becomes like, oh, you can see. Now you can see. You're beginning to see some stuff, but you can't actually see the sun because it's covered by the clouds. And so the anathas are the clouds that are keeping us from seeing the sun. See the sun of the holy name. And so Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur is describing Namabhasa. So, there's the chanting of the holy names, and initially when there's Nama, as we chant, initially we chant in, Vaishnava, in aparad, Nama aparad. We're committing offences as we chant the name. But the name is all-powerful, and so even though we may be offensive, we just continue chanting the holy names of Krishna. And then we progress from Nama aparad, chanting in the offensive stage, and then these aparads are being cleared. It's like a clearing stage of chanting. And then we enter into like a namabhasa, where we're actually beginning to see the sun. It's like at sunrise, you can begin to see light. And so this is like namabhasa chanting. And as we continue to chant, then these clouds of anathas get cleared away even further until we can see everything as it is. And so this seeing everything as it is actual self-realization, and pure love for Krishna then develops. So the word shastra means to cut, and so this, the shastras, the scriptures, can cut away our ignorance, and along with the association and darshan of the pure devotee of Krishna, as he explains the shastras to us. Like if we just get shastra on its own, it's not so effective because we're not able to really understand it. We'll be speculating about it, mentally speculating, and not really getting anywhere. It's a bit like, in college and universities, they study comparative religion. And, so the people studying this and teaching it, they're academics. So they're not necessarily having any religious experience at all themselves. It's just like an academic subject matter that they're teaching. And perhaps more apt is the analogy of a philosopher. Philosophy is just so dry. It's so dry. So religion, or anyway, then the study of religion in universities and college. So the study of religion includes philosophy, but also the rituals and practices and the culture of the followers of a particular philosophy. So the study of Shastra needs, it's not just something that you read, it actually requires application. So we apply what we read in Shastra, and we act upon it, and we engage in the practices of sadhana bhakti, of hearing and chanting and remembering Vishnu or Krishna. We engage in service of the lotus feet. We offer prayers, and worship the deities, archanam. So, and in this way we then begin to have some practical application and understanding and realization, and begin to experience some actual, attachment and relationship with Krishna, our spiritual master. So anyway, so this is the way that Shastra is something to be applied. It's something practical. It's not just knowledge, dry knowledge. And so this Shastra cuts away. And so, as I was saying here, so this Krishna is saying that the soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapons. So, Arjuna, he has many kinds of weapons, that were given to him by different demigods. So here in this verse, Krishna says, the soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. So Arjuna has many weapons. He has just sort of like, conventional type weapons. His Gandiva bow and his arrows are not conventional by any stretch of the imagination. But he has very different kinds of weapons, including his Gandiva bow and his arrows. And then he also has fire weapons, a whole different variety of fire weapons. So one of the most famous fire weapons is the Brahmastra, which is, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada describes it as being more or less like a nuclear weapon. And in fact, in India today, India is a nuclear power. They've developed, nuclear, atomic bombs and hydrogen bombs and so on, and they have ballistic missiles that they aim at Pakistan. Pakistan's also got them, so they aim at each other and cancel each other out. But anyway, so this is a kind of a fire weapon, and Arjuna has different kinds of fire weapons. And these weapons, his fire weapons, and he also has water weapons. Krishna is saying, can't be burned by fire. So Arjuna has all kinds of fire weapons. No moistened by water. Well, Arjuna also has water weapons. So if someone fires or shoots a fire weapon at Arjuna, then he's able to respond with a water weapon. And this suppresses the fire weapons, counteracts it. Nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. So Arjuna also has wind weapons, like typhoon weapons. So actually, I was reading this morning, and unfortunately I didn't have enough time. But my original sort of thought for the class on these two verses, these verses 23 and 24. Go together, as I'll explain in just a moment. But these, I was wanting to describe all of Arjuna's weapons. So I was researching this, and it was actually quite a bit shocking because I was thinking, oh, maybe there'd be a handful of weapons or a handful of information about this, but there's just screeds of information about all the different kinds of weapons that Arjuna has, and the impact of this weapon, and supported by scriptural quotes and so on. So anyway, I had a bit of a busy day today and didn't really have the time to sort of be able to describe the different fire weapons that Arjuna has, and where he got them from, and how he used them in the Battle of Kurukshetra, and similarly with all his water weapons and with his wind weapons or air weapons. I wasn't able to research, and we could have had some fun describing all of Arjuna's weapons and how he used them. So perhaps we can save that for another time. But these weapons, so the wind weapon, the fire weapon, the wind weapon, the water weapon, they all kind of, in one sense, go together. They can counteract each other. And so anyway, these weapons are invoked by mantras, different Vedic mantras. It's not like Arjuna's got fire or water or wind sitting in his chariot. Now, he has different arrows, and he chants mantras that he's been taught that then convert the arrow into a fire weapon or a water weapon or a wind weapon. So this is the power of mantras, when properly recited by a qualified person. So, so the Hare Krishna mantra is also obviously a very powerful mantra. It's known as the Maha Mantra, the most powerful mantra. So these mantras that Arjuna is chanting that can invoke all these, unbelievable weapons that, we can't even conceive, and which the Russian and American scientists would love to be able to tap the power of. These weapons have no potency or power in comparison to the Maha Mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra. So the Hare Krishna mantra is so powerful that it can cleanse all the material contamination from our heart, as Lord Chaitanya says in his first Shishaka prayer, Chaito Darpanam Marjanam, that the chanting, the Sri Krishna Sankirtanam, the chanting of the holy names of Krishna cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for lifetimes. So this is a wonderful power of the holy names of Krishna. But this is just an initial power, the cleansing of the heart. It's like wiping away the dust on a mirror. But the Hare Krishna mantra, as it cleanses all the dust from our hearts that have been accumulated for lifetimes after lifetimes, it then can actually wake us up. Right? Wake us up, and as we study Bhagavad Gita and the different yoga texts, the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra goes with this study. As Krishna Lord Chaitanya later says that on the same first verse, it is the life of transcendental knowledge. The Sri Krishna Sankirtanam is the life of transcendental knowledge. So I was speaking a little earlier about how the knowledge can be dry, but when you combine the knowledge with the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, it comes to life. We're able to actually realize these teachings, the transcendental knowledge that we're receiving. So as we chant the Hare Krishna mantra, it gives life into transcendental knowledge. So this Hare Krishna mantra can completely wake us up, transform us. You know, we can be transformed from being lovers of matter into being lovers of Krishna. We can be transformed from being an embodied living being stuck in this wheel of samsara, the wheel of birth and death, going from body to body to body, lifetime after lifetime, and just getting ourselves further enmeshed and further entangled in this material world. Again, as you know, Cheto Dapana Majnam, Bhava Maha Devagni Navapanam, Shreyas Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam, Vijya Varu Jivanam, Anandam Buddhivaranam, Pratipadan Purnam Rita Swaranam, Savatma Snapanam, Param Vijayate, Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. So this Vijay Varu Jivanam, this is the breathing life into the transcendental knowledge. And Mahadevagni Navapanam is extinguishing the forest fire of conditional life. So this is the power of the Hare Krishna mantra, the holy names of Krishna. So we have to receive it, this Hare Krishna mantra, from the right source. We receive it from the bona fide spiritual master, coming in disciplic succession, who then gives us the holy names of Krishna. And this can wake up the sleeping soul, the fallen soul, wake us up, and wake us up to our true and actual identity, and rekindle the innate love for Krishna that is there within our hearts. You know, we are eternally part and parcel of Krishna. We are the part, Krishna is the whole. Krishna is the source, we are all the energetic, and we are the energy. And so we become actually happy when we are relating in a loving relationship with Krishna. And this Hare Krishna mantra can wake us up and make this happen. So this is the power of mantra. And we can see, you know, Arjuna has this power of mantra when he's able to convert his arrows into fire weapons and water weapons and wind weapons. So in his purport, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada says, so all kinds of weapons, swords, flame weapons, rain weapons, tornado weapons, etc., are unable to kill the spirit soul. It appears that there were many kinds of weapons made of earth, water, air, ether, air, etc., in addition to the modern weapons of fire. Even the nuclear weapons of the modern age are classified as fire weapons, but formerly there were other weapons made of all different types of material elements. Firearms were counteracted by water weapons, which are now unknown to modern science. Nor do modern scientists have knowledge of tornado weapons. Nonetheless, the soul can never be cut into pieces, nor annihilated by any number of weapons, regardless of scientific devices. So then in the next verse, Krishna says, Achido ayam adayo ayam akleja asosya evacha nitya savagata sthanur achalo ayam sanatanaha. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble, and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. So Krishna in the first half of this verse is explaining why the weapons the cutting weapons, the burning weapons, the water weapons, the wind weapons, why they can't harm the soul, why the soul doesn't die. Right? In the previous verse, Krishna says the soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon. Right? And then he says here, the individual soul is unbreakable. Right? So the soul cannot be cut with the sword and chopped into little pieces. The soul is unbreakable. It's unbreakable. And of course, in his previous purport, which I didn't read, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, describes the dilemma of the impersonalist. The impersonalist idea is that that we're all God, a part of God. In a sense, God has separated himself for his pleasure, but we're all equally. In reality, it's all illusory, and we're all actually God. We just forgot it. But but Krishna is very clearly saying that the soul is unbreakable. In other words, he says the soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon. Well, why not? Because the soul is completely unbreakable. The soul cannot be broken. Okay, then Krishna said, nor burned by fire. And Krishna says here that the soul can be neither burned nor dried. Right? So the fire weapon doesn't have any impact on the soul. You can't burn the soul. The soul is unburnable. And it can't be dried. He says, nor moistened by water. So the soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water. And then Krishna says here, this individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble. So, the soul cannot be dissolved. You can't put the soul the Atma, in a big bucket of water and keep him in there and he'll just dissolve. Over time, essentially anything will dissolve. Fish bodies live in water all the time, but when the soul leaves the body, then the body basically dissolves. It gradually breaks down and gets dissolved into the water. The power of water to dissolve things is quite, extreme. Actually, I walked past on my morning walk today. I walked past a, one of those rental trucks. Maybe it wasn't today. One of the moving trucks, and has they have these sort of environmental messages on it, and it showed some place in Canada which has huge tides, like big huge tides, and that these tides coming and going, and they're shaping these rocks. These huge rocks are getting shaped by these tides, and tunnels are getting built through. So the power of water is quite amazing. It's able to dissolve these massive rocks. But Krishna is saying the soul is insoluble. It can't be dissolved. You can't dissolve the soul with water. You can't burn it by fire. You can't cut it into pieces. And then he says, also the being dried also refers to the being withered by the wind. If you go out in the wind, you get very dried. Your lips dry up. Right? You start getting cracked lips. Well, I certainly do. We can't be dried by the wind. The soul, the soul, can't be dried. Your body can be dried out. But you, the soul, you're not able to be withered by the wind or dried out. So this individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble and can be neither burned nor dried. Then in the second half of the verse, Krishna says, He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. Nitya savagata sthano achalo ayam sanatanaha. So, Krishna is, once again explaining many of the features of the soul. And so, in reality here, Krishna is being, he's being quite repetitive. And Srila Baladeva Jabusana has a comment as to why Krishna is being repetitive like this. So he says, the Lord, in teaching the nature of the Atma, has used repetition of words with similar meaning in order that the Atma, which is difficult to understand, can be easily understood. Thus, this is not a fault. Or the repeated words can be explained as useful for emphasizing the unique quality of the Atma, or the soul. So Krishna is, being repetitive and also using different words to try and get across the same point. So, several times now over the last few verses, Krishna has used the word nitya, eternal, and sanatana, which also means eternal or eternally the same. So Krishna is, driving home the point to Arjuna, and he's almost almost finished driving home this point to Arjuna, at this point in the conversation. And maybe actually I hadn't prepared for this, but maybe we'll also discuss the next verse. We have a few minutes, where Krishna essentially summarizes what he's been saying so far. So in text 25, Krishna says, "It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable." So Krishna has previously said, used some of these words. So, avyakto ayam machincho ayam, avikaryo ayam muchite. So here Krishna is saying it is said. So he's uchite. So he's referring, he's like citing scripture in a sense, It is said, it generally means that it's contained within the Vedic literatures somewhere and spoken by the saints and sages. So Krishna is, again saying that the soul is invisible. You can't see the soul with these material eyes. You can't see it. As is previously described, that it's, when Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada described, or Krishna said it's immeasurable, and Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada described that as being in connection with the 1/10,000th, the size of a tip of a hair, which practically speaking means it's, you can't measure it, it's minute, right? So, it is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, so achintyo, inconceivable, and immutable, can't be changed. Soul can't be changed. So Krishna has said immutable before. But then to kind of summarize this and all these verses from 2:11 through 2:24, and the first part of this 2:25, Krishna then says, Tajmadevam vidit vainam na nasho chitu mahase. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. So we're all in this situation where, people we love and know they're dying and leaving their bodies, and then we grieve. In fact, there's a grieving process that, is studied by psychologists and so on. And some people never recover from their grieving. Their depression is so intense that they become unable to function, and many times they don't actually come out of it. They just remain depressed. Oftentimes, they may lose the will to live. They lose the will to continue. Sometimes like a husband or a wife, maybe they've been married 40, 50 years or more, and oh my God, and then one of them leaves their body, and shortly thereafter the other one does. They just lose the will to live. So they're grieving so much for their lost loved one that they just don't want to carry on. And it's not that they commit suicide or something, it's just they lose the will to live. And they just leave their body. So, we should appreciate that we shouldn't grieve. We shouldn't grieve inordinately for the loss of a loved one as they leave their body. This is part of the natural order of things. And equipped with all this understanding that Krishna is giving us in these, 15 verses, we can understand that we are spirit soul. We're all spirit soul. And we're only temporarily in the body, having an in-the-body experience, a very temporary experience. This is not who we are. This is not our real life. It's an illusion. It's illusory, but it's real, but it's temporary. So in that sense, it is false. The Mayavadi impersonalists say that this world is false, it's an illusion. So whereas the Vaishnava says that, it's real, but it's temporary. So in that sense, it is false. So anyway, so Krishna is, emphasizing, so with this knowledge, you should not grieve. You should not grieve the loss of the body. So, interestingly, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in one of his books, he describes that, if we lose a son or a family member, then naturally we'll be sad about it and grieve. But this should only be being grounded in transcendental knowledge, this should then just be a short period of a matter of a few days. It shouldn't be something that goes on indefinitely. So we should study these verses. One time, Mahaprabhu Dasi, she asked me, well, what would be some nice verses to read at a remembrance ceremony, or essentially it wasn't the funeral, but anyway, it can be read at a funeral. What would be appropriate verses, So I said, well, after thinking about it for a couple of minutes, it's like, well, these verses in Bhagavad Gita, 2:11 through 2:30, these are wonderful verses. So please study them. Don't feel that, oh, okay, I know I'm not the body. Okay, I've heard this idea, I'm not the body. You may have heard it. You may have heard it so many times, but you should deeply contemplate what this actually truly means, that you are not the body. And you should live your life based upon this foundational knowledge. So next week we'll move on to texts 26 through 30. And Krishna takes a bit of a different tack, where he begins to say, well, even if you don't accept this, what I'm saying, that you're not the body, that you're spirit, soul, you're eternal, still you shouldn't grieve. And that shouldn't be a reason not to fight. So anyway, so that's something to look forward to. We can study these verses where Krishna takes the opposite tack. And so we can also learn from this the importance of being flexible in our making of different points or arguments as when we're speaking with others, as we try and teach them the science of identity and the meaning of the yoga texts and the path of self-realization. So anyway, so thank you very much. Greatly appreciate you coming and watching and listening, and thank you. Oh, and tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. this is a bit of a Bhagavad marathon. For some reason, like we have Friday night, Healing Chant 108, and then Sunday night at Bhagavad Gita at Yoga Kirtan Hawaii, and then Monday night, my regular Bhagavad Gita class, and then Tuesday night, another Yoga Kirtan Hawaii program called Soul Journey. So anyway, that's at 7 p.m. Hawaii time. You're welcome to come to that if you like. So anyway, okay, so thank you very much. Hari Bol. Namaste. Krishna. Radhisham?
Oh. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Itina Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Siddha Saravananda Paramahamsa Itina Rene Haribol Nitai Gaur Nitai Gaur Haribol Haribol Nitai Gaur Nitai Gaur Haribol. Can do it 4 times. Haribol Nitai Gaur Nitai Gaur Haribol. No, twice. Have a nice evening, everybody, and we'll see you soon.